Well, notwithstanding the fact that one of the risks have been initiated at our cyber simulation model, everybody's alive because everything is happening digitally in a virtual world. However, we are learning a lot, and we are disclosing and we're investigating these incidents. And when we will have the details of this investigation, how did it happen, and how the hackers were able to penetrate into the infrastructure, which were the attack vectors, we are going to tell you about that. And right now, we're going to have two connections with our colleagues and partners from EPAM Security and Cyber R&D Lab. The guys are getting connected from the West Coast and East Coast of the United States of America. They have early morning. I will switch to English, and you please stay with us.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I see it's very...
Good morning. Well, it's probably the first time I hear you speaking in Russian. It actually sounds a little different. You were talking to us in English before.
Well, my Russian is a bit better than my English, so, but not good enough anyway.
You should try my Russian.
Say something in Russian.
No, you don't want to hear it, trust me.
Usually people learn in foreign languages swear words, right?
That's why I say you don't want to hear it.
So let me introduce my guests. It's Sam Rehman, Senior Vice President and Chief Information Security Officer at EPAM Security. Hi, Sam.
Hey there. Thank you so much for having us, by the way. This is so exciting. Love it.
Adam Bishop, you have just seen him in a previous interview, but Adam, hello again, Director and Information Security Officer, Head of Cyber R&D Lab. Adam, hi.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And Yuriy Goliyad, Head of Global Operations, Senior Vice President of EPAM Security.
That would be me. Hi, everyone.
So now you're introduced. How it's going on? It's early morning. It's Friday 13th. We started this morning with, some technical things, technical impacts. And just recently, one of the critical risks implemented on our cyber range, Standoff, worked out. That was the chemical factory. And we've got the serious trouble in the chemical factory. It was hacked. The SCADA equipment was hacked, and the environment suffered a lot, so it's a technical catastrophe. Unfortunately, we're able to see this. So we are now investigating the reasons why it's happened, and as soon as we're ready, we will inform everybody about the vectors of attack, how hackers penetrated to the infrastructure, and why it's happening. So, but it's Friday 13th. How it's going on with you? Is everything okay?
We're doing all right. I think just to comment about that is that's exactly why we're all doing this, right? So everything is real, everything is live. In security, we are talking about things would happen when you don't know it. It's never predictable. This is why this is so exciting and so important. I love this conference for that very reason. And when you ask me how's it going so far, it's going great. I think the key thing is to keep that posture, keep that muscle working, to make sure that we all work together, to make sure we actually train so that we actually can strengthen our security posture. So an event like this is just outstanding.
Yuri, how is your 2020 and Friday 13th?
Yeah, I mean, thanks for noticing. I haven't realized that. You're right. It's like Friday 13th, so we should expect a lot of, fun stuff happening. I haven't checked the status as of this morning yet. Been, slightly busy morning for us here. But yesterday was, quite exciting. I felt like back in the days. Probably like 20 years ago when I was, already in the United States and I was still following, Eastern European, soccer or football at the time. when like Moscow played Kiev, and I was like refreshing the page every couple of seconds, and it was like really exciting yesterday. And of course, technology kind of is a little better for us right now, but a lot of interesting stuff happened yesterday. Looking forward to the next few days. And by the way, Sam, I intentionally made this, football Moscow Kiev type of examples, a revenge for, on you, because you always use those NFL type of things that nobody understands.
Is that right?
Yuri, can you get a bit closer to the microphone, please, so we hear you better? Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry about that.
Adam,
You missed the part that he was teasing me. That's all right.
So that's why he stands just behind. Adam, how's your day?
It's going well. Thank you again for this morning's talk. That went really great, and it was really interesting. And I think I'm the one that probably can take the teasing from both sides, because when Sam makes the NFL references, I have to ask, well, what's the NFL? I don't watch any of that stuff, and then I don't watch the international soccer stuff either. So I'm kind of just in my own little world over here. But no, on a more serious note, definitely interesting things going on. Took a quick look. I saw actually EPAM's offsec team bounce around between second place a couple times with points and stuff. It's so dynamic. It's so interesting to see this. And I think the interesting thing for me was as we were talking about the planning and everything around the event, we're kind of thinking, these hacking tournaments, it's a lot of just, hours of nothing's really happening. And that has not been the case. It's very dynamic. And it's like anytime you bring it up, you always see things going on and new teams accomplishing different things. So fascinating to watch. Very happy to be a part of it. Thank you.
Yeah, let me tell you a few words. So what do we have here as a cyber range, and what's going on here, so our listeners understand everything what happening and what happened since yesterday when we started. So we have the first global and first open cyber range, which is going on just now. Everything that you see here is going live. So no records. You can do whatever you want. We started yesterday at 12, and a few words about what Cyber Range is. This is actually a competition between the offensive and defensive side for the resources of the virtual city, where we have 12 different domains, typical domains which are represented in a normal city is there. It's like an entertainment park, is a different type of factories, is telecom, is the railway, it's financial systems and everything. 12 different domains, and each of these domains is described with the three key business risks that hackers supposed to fulfill, supposed to reach. And if they achieve the goal, then the risk happening, and we see either money stolen from the bank, or we see the railway crash, or we see something happens on the factory, as we've seen just recently, just actually a half an hour before our call. Some numbers about what is happening. The first attack yesterday, we fixed 19 minutes after the cyber range started, so it's pretty much quick. The first risk worked out 4.5 hours after the competition started, so just 4.5 hours. And the first critical risk worked out 15 hours after the cyber competition started. We have in parallel a bit more than 200 experts from both offensive and defensive sides fighting in the city, and it's actually not that much. In the real life, in the wild world, there are much more these experts. That means that actually every second the critical risk may happen. So that's why the businesses should pay attention to what's going on. So you are the partners, EPAM Security and Cyber R&D Lab, the partners of this event. So why do you consider it's important for you to be a partner for this kind of event? Sam, let's start with
If I
you.
may just start. Yeah, I was about to say, if I may start, because your analogy is actually really good. I always tell people that imagine you have a house, live in a house. Let's say you got like, I don't know, 10, 15, 18 windows. How many number of windows? 1, 2, 3, or 4 doors. If you're trying to defend the house, is one thing that you actually have to go through. And the attacker only have to pick one window, one door, one time, any time in the day to come in through it. But you have to protect the house. You need to protect the entire, and that's why we need to be actually so much more. We have to put up so much more effort to make sure that we can actually protect our enterprise. And as you pointed out, it is true that every enterprise now, I think, is moving towards understanding that digital is core to their business. They understand that, they no longer, especially, I hate to say it, everybody's tired of hearing it, but especially when you listen to, look at what's changing around our world because of COVID and other situations. We all realize that business have to move towards digital. But as they start to move towards digital, they understand cloud a little bit more now because that gives them access to scale. We understand that, they have to have user experience, which is going to be great, so that it's engaging to the user. What's not there is trust. It's that resilience. It's still, as they start to rush towards it, I hate to say, a lot of them are blindly going towards it, and they're missing a part about trust. And this is why cybersecurity is so important. And I'll add one more thing, is that we're going towards a stage where right now, the typical old days of defense around just perimeter ring fencing, around just building out controls, manually checklists and audits, those days are gone in the sense that not that it's not important, you still need to do it to a certain degree, but the scale is so large that now you need to shift left, you need to automate as much as you can. Now you need to use different kinds of ways to do this. So the only way of actually doing on-prem type of security is gone. All that said, why is it important is exactly that. EPAM, we build software for our clients. We build great software for our client. We work closely. In fact, we call them our partners because we truly, treat it that way. We build great software for our clients. And to do that, yes, we can make that very user-friendly, and we see that. Yes, we can make that very scalable. Yes, we can make it very robust. We work together with our clients to do that. And we can't deny the fact that we also have to work together to make the software more resilient, more trustworthy, because customers, if they get to choose between the two applications, between two services, you think they're going to choose the one that actually they can trust or the one that they, falls apart every now and then, or does not respect the privacy of data, or there's a risk of actually having them, lose all their data overnight. So it's very clear that security now is a first-class citizen all the way from design phase, all the way from the deployment. So it's absolutely crucial to EPAM to be able to provide that level of services to our clients and raise our security posture. So I'll stop there. I'll let the rest of the team chime in as well.
Okay, Yuriy?
I can, maybe add a little bit to that, Sam. And I kind of, security, you rightly said, is becoming like a first-class citizen, right? And if you look at EPAM's story, at EPAM evolution, right? We started as a software engineering company, right? And then with time, we became so good at it that we expanded into, design. And now we're expanding into consulting. So the thing is, the whole complexity of digital is growing, and we are defining and writing those complexity waves. And security has already become de facto, one of the components of, the digital. And it's very important for us to become part of this story, incorporate this story into broader EPAM offering to stay ahead of competition, to stay ahead of this in the industry like we've been able to do so far. And so far we've been quite successful. Actually, even see this morning, we won another prize today, like one of, we got in the top Fortune 100 fastest growing companies again, right? It's a great achievement. But unless you constantly pay attention on how to expand your services, how to get better, how to complement yourself with something else, you're not going to be winning for long. And security is one of the areas which we think we really need to add to our portfolio.
Yeah, thank you, Yuriy.
Yeah, I would.
Adam?
Yeah, I was just going to briefly add to that as well. I think it's fantastic what I've seen. If you look at the big service providers that are out there, I see few that take security as seriously as what's going on here. And if you just look at the Standoff as an example of that, to go deep into the research side of security and how things work, how things can be compromised at a very deep level, on a real world level, kind of in this simulation battlefield. It just raises an awareness that really wasn't there. You don't see a lot of that. So super exciting and cool. And I think, as Sam and Yuri eloquently put, it's one of the key reasons why we want to be involved in stuff like this going forward.
The key reason why we organize the Cyber Range is to model the incidents in a virtual digital infrastructure, which is as much close to the real city infrastructure as possible, in order to see how it works, how hackers behave, how they penetrate into the infrastructure, how they reach the target, like controllers, like money, that brings the risks itself to work. And having understanding of this, to be able to predict it in the real life. So once you know the different templates of behavior, once you know how the risks works when it's conducted until the very end, you know how to predict it in a life and make our life more safe and more comfortable. And we're talking about the business risk here. The Standoff itself, the idea first appeared 10 years ago, but our first Cyber Range happened 5 years ago. And we had it first of all for technical people, so they just fight it with each other. But then we realized there should be a business risk approach. So people like top managers in the companies, they understand how important to invest into the cybersecurity and how critical the consequences could be if they happen in the real life.
I mean, you're very right. It does, events like this give us an opportunity to play, I call it the margin game, right? We're still plenty of vulnerabilities, right? Every company on this planet is not bulletproof, right? And everybody can become target of an attack and get compromised. I mean, being in this space, we all know that it's absolute. It's not absolute, right? But we are playing the margin game. We are participating in events like that. We are making our skills a little better, right? Just a little better, right? We are trying to practice certain procedures. We are experimenting with certain tools. We're mastering certain skills that are going to make recovery a little faster. And that's what I guess is going to, separate companies who do this a little better and make them much more successful going forward. It's not maybe a very motivating, industry, maybe not very motivating story to be a part of when you can't win, when you're playing like a margin game. But it is what it is, right? And margins make a big difference. At least that's my take on, what are we doing here and why, little things are so important and why, participating in this event is a big deal for us.
Sam.
I liked it a lot. I was about to say, right? Just chime. Oh, Vlad, you want to go first? You have a question?
No, you go ahead and then ask a question.
I was just about to chime in because I think, and I think it might be the word. I may be picky. I actually don't think that we can predict it, in a sense that I think, maybe I'll adjust about what you're saying is so important to me, because a big part of the reason why this is important is, and people who knows me knows that I'm a martial arts and combat sports freak, and you could train and train and train and train all you want to on paper. The first time you get in the ring, somebody actually tap you just on the cheek, just tap you a little bit on the cheek. Your emotion goes up, you stand up. Joe Frazier used to say that, all you got to do is touch the guys. Just touch them. Once you touch them, you see the hands start to drop. They start to get upset. Their head go forward as if they want you to knock them out. All their training goes out the window. And I'm not saying that's exactly 100%, but it's actually very true to security as well. there is no preparation to some degree, in for some of that emotional factor. But I can guarantee you, if you go through an exercise like what you're presenting right now, your team would become stronger. They have the actual muscle to understand when something bad happens, how to deal with it. And we often, miss the point about emotional factor, which is it's actually a very emotional time. I had to go through a lot of incidents in my career. And I could tell you, every time we go through it, it's a whole process. It's exciting and scary and nervous and hectic. All of those things pulled together. If you don't train for it, you're basically asking to be knocked out, right? This is why this is so real. You can buy all the tools in the world, pick the best of breeds. If you don't go through an exercise like this that you guys are setting up, and that's why I'm so appreciative of it, there is no comparison to it. It's like what Tyson would say, that first punch, your plan just went out the window. And that's so true about security as well. So, and thanks for setting this up. I really appreciate it.
Sam, I have the next question to you also. Do you see the difference between what is going on here in Cyber Range and the well-known tools that are used in security as CTF, as a pen test, as a bug bounty program?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I think they're both needed, first of all. I think they're needed for different reasons. If you look at, for example, CTF, like Jeopardy type of CTF, which is mostly, and when you say CTF, I assume you mean the Jeopardy type, which is, answers and navigate. It teaches people to think, both the OPSEC side, the offensive side, and the defensive side. It teaches people to actually go through and think about what hacking is about. Now, hacking now, we always use it as a bad word. When I was, started out like 30-something years ago, it wasn't a bad word. It's just kludging things. In fact, you can't write a piece of software without hacking. There's nothing ever compiles without actually kludging it, right? So back then, you always have to take things apart. You take the device apart, figure out, what the bus looks like. Nobody writes documentation for DMA. You got to figure out what DMA, the address is, and then you figure out how to actually write to your floppy disk. All of those things include this whole concept of being curious about your system. So CTF encourages that, which is, you need to understand there is no such thing as I was explaining to somebody what debouncing is. There is no such thing as you click a button and a character shows up. It doesn't work that way. There's a million steps in between. And in fact, I was explaining how the dry contact touches and what debouncing looks like. All of those concepts, it's a step at a time. It's an onion. That is what CTF encourages. It's great because to be able to write software defensively, to be able to understand how ethical hacking works, you need that skill. It's chaining one process after another one. However, that's the skill set that's needed. It encourages people to get in the field. It does not get you there. If you look at other type of exercises, other type of tools, they're all great. However, they're not a simulation of the real life experience. So my personal feeling is do that to attract people to come in, do that to raise awareness, do that to actually train a certain mindset, which is very hard to do. When you ask people, why do I need type check on this function? I only call this function for so-and-so. Because someday somebody is going to give you a string in that check that's going to give you a problem that you didn't expect it. So do a type checking. Just by telling them doesn't work. Give them these exercises so they would actually understand, learning from process. Great. However, what we're doing here is much more real life. In real life, no matter how you look at it, you have the defensive side, you have the offensive side, then you have the outstanding, watchers and everybody outside. And it's exactly starting from your recon, your footprinting, understanding what's inside, your first breach, then they stay with the first breach, they do the lateral attack, and then they spread out the attack by multiple different types of schemes and so on and on and on. That is real. That, no books could tell you. You can't buy it. I mean, go take your CEAs, your OSCP and all that. Critical, by the way, same year. Good stuff. But to try it out real life, a cyber exercise like that, it's no comparison to me.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Yuriy, my next question will be to you. And talking about the business risks. So I've mentioned that the gameplay of Standoff is based on the business risks that hackers supposed to execute, supposed to implement. We don't know how they will reach these risks. We don't know their behavior because we have different teams, 39 teams and about 200 experts in total. They have a different skill set, they have a different tool, so it's like in a real life. But they're supposed to reach the business risks. You have been responsible for the operations of EPAM. Do you see maybe 1, 2, or 3 critical risks that you consider the most important for EPAM if something happens? So what you should be the nightmare if happens with EPAM or a company like EPAM?
You're kind of putting me on the spot here. Of course, I'm not going to answer this question directly because if I do, I'm going to create, I'm going to help a lot of, generate certain vectors which we are trying to protect ourselves from. But
so let's consider the another big company, famous software developer.
No, I get it. I'm partially joking. It's a great question, right? And I guess. And again, companies in our industry has been through a few incidents recently, so we know what the outcome of those and what we are concerned of, right? First of all, we are we never forget, right? We are in a service industry, so we do work for our clients and for a lot of credible clients. So most important risk for us, the biggest nightmare for us, is to compromise any part of data, source code or whatever we have access to within our client's infrastructure. Clients always come first. So that's something that is the most important asset for us. That's what we are concerned about, and that's what we, investing most of our time and effort trying to protect. Again, is that easy to do? Everybody, in this industry knows it's very, very difficult to do. Right, but we are trying our best, and hopefully we won't make it into news anytime soon. And again, events like that help us, maybe delay us getting into news by a few minutes and few hours. And again, back to my not very good, as some people think, sense of humor. There is another mitigation factor. We leverage in EPAM. We have two executives, right? To be exact, we have Sam, who is our CISO and looking after our security infrastructure, and we have myself, who is head of ops. So we kind of share this responsibility, and in case. The reason we do it is if something bad really happens, we would only need to fire one of us. So we already decided between me and Sam who that would be. So EPAM would still be resilient and would still, continue working on its resiliency. Even
I missed that memo altogether somehow. I wonder why.
Okay, Adam, the question to you. How do you think is important for EPAM and to for cyber R&D lab to have understanding of both offensive and defensive side to make impossible implementation of the risk that Yuriy has just mentioned?
The risk of who gets fired or gets it? That's a big
about
risk.
The client. He was talking about the clients. Yeah.
All I know is my name wasn't anywhere on that memo, so I'm pretty relieved about that. But I'm sure
everybody saw it except me. I wonder why.
This is a sad reality of security, and I think it's why we choose to do it. I mean, we all know, as Yuriy said before, it's a margin game. You're always kind of, how many steps behind are you? And if it really turns into that big breach, there's consequences, and we've seen this, and it goes beyond executive level. It's look at what the board impacts and everything like that. So how important is it? I think it's crucially important. There's so many levels of that. I mean, if you just think about it from a services organization, companies are still figuring out how to do this right, and they need partners. They need trusted expertise in this area, which, by the way, is in today's environment increasingly difficult to acquire and maintain and preserve in-house. It's a challenge finding the right people. Once you find them, it's a challenge keeping them. There is a survey put out that said I think over 60% of security professionals were either not entirely satisfied or considering other types of movement and career moves. So there's a lot of turnover in this space because it's a tough job. It's hard to get it right. So as a service organization, for us to be able to deliver that value to our clients in ways that you can only do if you have that full, complete picture, how to build stuff resiliently, how to solve problems with a digital mindset, coupled with the fact that you are constantly stress testing your techniques and how you build things out. We talk about shifting left, but it's also thinking how you do that life cycle and where you bring in the heavy lifting of offensive security. So things like a full-time red team, for example, to have just constantly looking around in the environment. Can we do a lot of recon without being detected? Can we actually do exploits? How does it show up in our radars? And then all the way beyond that, just knowledge of the research and the gems of wisdom that come out of that with different technologies, IoT, blockchain, cloud, big things that are transforming the way we do things, right? It's absolutely of essential importance from an organization like what we do here at EPAM to have that knowledge and to be able to do it not only for our clients but for ourselves as well, preserve the resiliency and the trust of our operations as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so talking about security demand on the U.S. market. Just today I spoke with IDC representative, asking about some numbers. How do they see the market? He said an interesting thing. He said that for Russia, for instance, in April when the pandemic just started, they predicted minus 25% a market decline. Can you imagine? In August, they changed their prediction for minus 11%, but still this is a negative prediction. For the next year, they predict plus 10%, but it's something which is pretty much common year over year. For the global markets, IDC mentioned about 3 to 4% growth. How do you feel the US security market, and do you see the growing demand, or you see the declining trend at the moment? So Yuriy, let's start with you.
Go ahead, Yuriy.
It's definitely growing. I mean, demand for any type of services, and again, it's easy for us to speak because we in general in this business is growing. Remember 6-9 months ago when COVID started, there were the speculations around will we get like an L curve recovery, U-V curve recovery. It's I've seen the news recently like a K curve recovery. So people were coming up with all these different ladders or functions. So for us, it's somewhere between U and V. So we do see a very big demand for our services. Now, you were asking specifically about security. It is growing. It's difficult for me to say it's like 3% or 4%, but this is a fast-growing industry, and we see demand exceeding supply by a lot. Of course, there are a lot of complexities in the supply and demand type of game because of again some travel restrictions, because of some changing government regulation. I mean, the U.S. government, as you could see, passing some laws that are a bit different, a bit controversial from the environment we used to operate before when it comes to leveraging talent around the globe. But putting all these complexities aside, I see growth, and it's actually a pretty good and healthy growth.
Sam?
I can only agree. I mean, I agree completely. I think I'll just add a little bit. The devil's always in the detail. Completely agree with what Yuriy said. I think it's important for us to understand what the sales motion looks like, though, however, in a sense that every vertical has their own challenges. If you look at it that way, in a sense that we have to understand that when we look at, for example, on the GRC side, it looks like GRC side, there was a number of pickup because of new standards. However, if you look at cybersecurity specifically, every vertical, for example, retail, we're still struggling a lot with ghost accounts and bots. That's a big area that people are still struggling with, and in fact getting worse and worse because there is an ecosystem for them to actually sell it now. So that part, I could tell you there's a huge pickup on CIM, on consumer identity and access management. That part is moving faster and faster. There's a lot of consolidation around that area that I think it's absolutely critical. That you see a big movement about, and you start to see that it's moving more and more towards the application side, a little less on infrastructure for multiple reasons. One of them being that the cloud infrastructure guys are getting better, especially with some specific cloud, and we could talk about that later. But there are a couple of clouds that's getting better on their security posture, not ideal yet, nowhere near. But however, it's pushing the attackers more towards the application layer. So you have like, Maze carts and Ghost account and stuff like that for retail. You have a lot of the microtransactional types of attacks for banking, because as you see banking moving more and more towards on the attacks on building out their platform, people are now figuring out the multiple step that's needed to sometimes automate. We've seen hints of automation, but sometimes partially automate attacks on some of the banking APIs and banking platform. That is purely transactional, which means they're actually transferring money all the way through. You saw a couple of news about a 10,000 transfer. Those are the ones that are very concerning for banking. Then you have the other one that's more horizontal, which is, everybody's freaked out about, Ryuk and Hermes and ransomware type of breachware that came all the way from the Swift attack. If you look at that type of attack, it's much more horizontal. Everybody's like concerned about it. I think it's there's definitely more movement towards buying more in security. People understand that just buying firewalls after firewalls, God bless you for buying next generation firewall, but just buying firewalls by itself is not enough. The biggest issue though in the market though, and the customer sees this, is what I think Adam and Yuriy both talked about, it's the talent pool. And I'm not just saying it's just because I'm trying to sell it, but it's really real. If you listen to the latest blog from Robert Herjavec, said the same thing. The biggest concern in the market right now is the lack of security experts, because now we need security experts in the architect level, we now in the user experience level, we now need it, on the application level, we need expert in the cloud native level. We need that injected across our process, just like we did with user experience, just like we did with Agile, just like we did with data many, many years ago. Security has to be, embedded within the entire process. Where do we find this talent? So it is a tough battle, but I'm seeing growth. I'm seeing growth, especially in the areas that I talked about. There are a couple of other ones that I could see this being accelerated around, for example, IoT. We're getting a second wave after the Hajime attacks, a couple of years ago. We've seen second waves coming about. Hopefully people will stop setting default password to BusyBot. But anyway, those are the ones that I would say it's definitely where the market is moving towards. So I think by itself that market is moving much more towards a blended model of services together with tool sets and SaaS model that would provide that holistic support and services for our customers.
If we make some predictions, so let's say 3 to 5 years from now, what do you think about the market which could be around the cyber ranges? Because what is cyber range? What cyber range is, in fact, is a digital twin, the digital twin of the city. And the purpose is to model the city processes, to test the hardware and software which is used in the city, in order to see where the vulnerabilities, where the weaknesses of the processes, software and hardware, and then to make it more reliable in the real world. Before making it for global distribution, just before the standoff, I contacted Gartner and I asked them if they would be interested to attend the standoff just to take a look. And I invited them to the cyber range. And as I understood from their replies, they don't see the market as a cyber range. They told me about BAS market. They told me about some different markets. But I think that such organizations who are influencers may not see the potential of the growing market. So I want to ask your expert opinion. If we make a prediction for 3 to 5 years from now, do you consider the cyber range, which could be implemented within the customer infrastructure, or partly within the customer infrastructure, or even in a totally isolated environment, would you consider as a potential market?
I'll just say this real quick, and I'll let the team answer. So, number one, I don't make predictions, so I'll opt myself out of it. However, let me come back with a question for you, and you would know where I stand. We used to deploy software build software, and then we go to client side and install them, right? Most of my career has been in product development, so we used to just send it over to the customer, they install it. There is no production testing. There was no pre-prod testing. You see what I mean? It's either a customer side or it's in a development team.
Yeah.
We don't even used to have a staging environment, right? We used to build software and we test it out. And we have got to a point that we're mature enough that basically says, when you build software, you first go through a promotion stage into your internal organization. You go through a set of testings, NFR testing, the stress testing. Then you go to a pre-prod environment. The pre-prod looks like real. Then you do A/B testing, which is you split some of the testing over to real customer, some of them internal with your bots and so on. And then you finally go production. I would ask the question, why would you not do the same thing for security? And if that's true, that isn't an exercise like this, a cyber range like this, isn't that the best pre-prod environment for security? You see what I'm getting at? So anyway, yeah. I'll leave you with that question, but I'll let the rest of the team answer.
Yeah. Yuri?
Unlike Sam, I actually like making predictions. I just prefer to make those for, you asked about 3 years, right? I prefer to make for 30, maybe 3,000 years ahead, for obvious reasons, right? I wouldn't be kept accountable for whatever my prediction is.
I will steal that trick, Yuri.
Which you know, and you can make whatever predictions you want about security, because in general, what we do, and I thought about this a lot, is an interesting ethical dilemma, right? I mean, we are kind of walking a very thin line in security, trying to stay on the right side of the line, because what security is, right? You're trying to protect from some wrongdoing, like, you know, somebody trying to steal data and supposedly stealing data is not a good thing, and, you know, people trying to protect it. Somebody's trying to disrupt, which again, supposedly is a bad thing. We don't even know that for sure, right? And somebody's trying to protect from disruption. So when it comes to, you know, and again, kind of looking at the history of, you know, human beings, it's probably, you know, would be stupid to predict that we will solve this ethical dilemma in the next 30 or 300 years, but, you know, hopefully 3,000 years from now, we're all going to get out of this job, right? Because this job is not needed. We have to all die, right? And so, but back to your question, Laura, I honestly, personally don't think that, you know, CyberRange per se is going to create a market in Gartner terms in 3 years. I think, you know, this concept would live. It's exciting, it's interesting, right? It has a lot of components of value components that I guess we would kind of keep to, right? We'll keep a hold around, but I doubt it will be a market on its own. It will be part of some other segments that, you know, analysts say.
Some hybrid or migration with the other areas, right?
Yeah, it will be some component of something else, but it will stay. It has a lot of positives, a lot of, you know, good things around itself. You know, to fall into that real, you know, negative predictions I made for all of us, that, you know, 3,000 years from now, we hopefully not going to have jobs. So.
Yeah. Adam?
Yeah, I would also, you know, Sam, I wish I knew that trick when I talked to Volva earlier today, because he, you know, I had to make a prediction, and of course I didn't want to, but I'll go ahead and make one, which is to say that as long as we have humans behind the keyboard, we're going to have growth in security. You know, I think it just comes down to the fact that there is a human element here at work, and that's driven us tremendous innovation. It's fantastic, but it's on both sides, right? So we have humans that are not perfect, and then we have very smart humans that are figuring out how to exploit those imperfections. And it's not just going to go away. regardless of what new technology and platform. The other thing that I think we're going to start to see is, the explosion of programs that I see now. I have a teenager, so we're looking into the colleges. I'm like, we never had these programs when I was in college. And what you're going to see is a flood of people coming in. You're going to graduate even before you graduate. I'm hearing stories of folks getting jobs as security professionals in their junior year of college. It's amazing, right? You're going to have market people doing work that did not grow up in operations, for example. And I think that makes a big difference, right? So the security talent is going to be one that is a little different than the ones that did 15 years of trying to figure out how to roll out patches across an enterprise or develop an application source code and repository. And the way that you can sort of differentiate the theory from the practice is through the cyber range in so many ways, right? So will there be a market for it? I cannot tell you that, but is there a value proposition that can be recognized and captured? I can't see any other way other than yes, considering those factors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Adam. And my last question to all of you, if possible, briefly, 1, 2, or 3 points. What would you consider as the key takeaway that you will take from the lessons you are learning, because the standoff is still going on, and you are going to take from the standoff? So,
Can I
Sam,
start first?
yeah, let's start with you.
Okay. So number 1, always make prediction 3,000 years from now. Number 2, always blame the user, as Adam would say. No, I'm kidding.
So let me
I'm
write
kidding.
down, repeat please, so I don't forget.
Just get rid of the users. That's perfect.
All this human shaming, Adam, what do we say about that? That's not cool, man. Anyway, I completely agree. It always falls back to the Anyway, I think it's the event is still ongoing. What we are saying is this is an effort. I think number 1, this is an effort that needs to go on and continuous. It should not be one-time event. Like last month, we had the awareness security event. We posted a lot of material in it, but what I tell people, I was just in another interview, was a continuous process. So number 1, security posture needs to be something that kept up ongoing with exercise like this. I think that's 1. Number 2, don't be afraid of getting the game and compete and try it out, just like this event. That's the only way you know what it looks like. Number 3 is I actually have a call to action. I want every executive to be actually at a show like this. I want every executive to see what's it like. It's not okay for business folks, executives, C-class member to just say security is another problem, somebody else's issue. When that issue hits, trust me, you got to be accountable for it. So my number 3 is, it's almost a call to action, if you will, is for all the business folks to seriously look at security not as something that's scary, but it's something that brings safety and to be part of these events. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, Yuriy.
Yeah, we'll take away a few tactical things, of course. We have our blue team and our red team participating in this event, and red team's participating now for the first year already. So I already spoke with some of those guys. So there are a lot of learning, a lot of tactical things that we will we'll get away from this event, of course. I see already certain actionable things for our blue team as well. That's responsible for EPAM security, of course. So in technical terms, there'll be a lot of these things. But again, in more generic terms, it's events like this, and security in general. One of the biggest challenges I see is a lot of folks, a lot of business leaders, don't fully understand. And again, we don't expect everybody to, have technical education and whatever, we do. But it would be great if, the level of understanding of what security, digital security on today's planet really means, and how not absolute it is something that hopefully, will be a big takeaway for all participants here, and that would help spread the message, and that would, help people like us manage, security, invest into security, and do our jobs a little easier.
Okay, thank you, Yuriy. Adam, and your last word.
Yeah, I think they said it really well. It's about partnership, right? So many levels. Again, a partnership between your offensive teams, your defensive teams, and partnership between the highly technical, security community and the executives and the companies that are providing security, the individuals within the company that are providing security leadership. And we've always thought of this paradigm where, I've presented to boards, and going in, it's like, reviewing the materials. Wow, this might be too technical. We got to tone this down. It's an executive audience. Well, the days of thinking that you can be a leader in that space without understanding some of the basic concepts are gone. And I think that this is a great platform to bring all that together through partnership. So I think that's the takeaway. I mean, we used to think of conferences, oh, is that an executive conference, business? Oh, no, maybe that's a technical conference. It's both, right? I mean, we got business tracks going on. We got highly technical stuff, and we all need to come together. Sorry for the cliche phrase there, but we really do. It's about the partnership, and if there's one thing to take away, it's that we got to start speaking the same language on some level, and just maybe understanding each other's domains just a little bit more, just a little bit of overlap there to figure out how to solve the problem the right way.
Hey Adam, is the DNS tceo to code.com, is that taken? Maybe we could start it. I'm kidding.
Maybe.
Okay, thank you very much for being here in the online studio, and thank you very much for partnership at Standoff. So Yuriy and Adam, I want to say you goodbye, and Sam, we're staying with you after the short break.
I'm in detention. What did I do wrong?
Thanks for having us. It's like guys.
Punishment.
Been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Okay, so, and we're going to continue talking with Sam, and the topic would be the security community. Actually, we partly mentioned already the thing in the previous interview, and Yuriy and Sam told about the lack of people in IT security. But first, we have to understand who are these people, where to find them, and how to grow them properly. So, Sam, welcome back.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the security talent on the US market. What do you think about the topic? What do you think of the security talent market in the US?
Okay, you're gonna have to cut me off because I would talk forever about this. So, it's a very widespread problem. So, if you first look at it, I think a lot of people were looking at, okay, we have traditional training, we need certified more people. The problem has actually changed within the last, I would say, 5 years or so. It's not only just the existing group of people that we're lacking. Because of the way that digital has become much more agile and much more fast-paced, we now need people that understand security in a user experience base. In fact, just maybe a plug for my session. So I'll be talking at your conference around security and user experience. That's a big space, and it's a battle right now. If you sit down, when people develop products, they're still battling on what is a good user interface for login page. And it should be in some way. So that needs a counterbalance. Who's going to do that? So there needs to be folks that actually is on the front end side, which is product management side, closer to security, understand security, at least in the architect level. So we're missing people that's, overall in the market, not us, but in the market, that there needs to be a lot more people who understand security on an architecture level, especially dynamic architecture. We're very quick in going to, domain model to microservices, to a lot of these different models that basically say horizontally scalable, stateless middle tier, great stuff. But, who understand how to actually secure that part? It's so dynamic. Is it just, I'm writing my SAS and DAS tools and that's it? No. That first architecture level is critical. Then you need architects who understand the cloud environment, because so much of what we do right now, it's no longer on-prem and on cloud. Understand how to do, understand cloud security SDK, what they provide, their KVMs, their identity, all that stuff needs to be cloud native level security expertise in there. That's in fact, just to tell you a little bit about what we're going through. That's my number one demand, which is the architect level to understand how to actually architect a secure environment. Then obviously we talk about the practitioners, which is a lot of network security folks. We need a lot of those on a DevSec side. If you think about a SOC team, huge demand on people who can actually run the next generation of SOC, not just to answer the ticket, but really could actually be, understand the problem, solve the problem, and maybe even do a little bit of scripting and improvement as well. That's one part. Then you have the OffSec side. The OffSec side, traditional, the CEH like myself and so on, those are typically, much more smaller, few people here and there. That is a big demand as well. So we need more people on that side. And you understand it, very well, of course, that's not one person. That's a layer of different people that have some expertise in application, this type of application, that enterprise, more lower level, higher level. You need a wide spread of that, that group of people. And I haven't even started on a demand for the GRC side, the digital risk side. That is another aspect of it because GRC is moving towards coding now as we're going through it. It's no longer just a checklist and audit-based processes. So we now need engineers who can actually be part of that digital risk management side as well. So, but it's a very wide space. I'll let you guide me into wherever you want to talk about.
But you describe pretty much fundamental things. But isn't it the case always? Is there anything special now in this year and in the next year, which is driven by these special circumstances?
I think, well, so we're rushing towards digital because of COVID and everything else, right? So a lot of the guys are rushing towards it. I think the demand for the OffSec side is much higher because there's a lot more people pushing towards driving and say, can we see an outside imposter? Can somebody do, and also with some of the compliance. So ASVS, for example, has now at least even a level 1 has a pen testing compliance. So we're now driving towards a lot more of that because of some of the standards and also because of some of the customers rush towards it. When they rush towards it, what do? They want to take a snapshot of it first, and outside-in perspective is very good for that. But that and the architects are the two that I see as being driven by the most. The reason for the architects is because we're seeing a lot of the architectures move to the cloud. They're seeing that they're constantly patching it, and they realize that they can only do so much of it, cannot catch up the game and realize the architecture is wrong. So those are the two areas I would say is what we're seeing that is, driving the most towards demand.
What do you think should motivate young people to become security experts? What is exciting in this area?
Oh boy, I'm gonna cut me off on this one. This is the most, I think, difficult part of the conversation, which is because my daughter is actually a security engineer as well. So she just started internship, not too long ago. And not because of me, not because of my push. It was just something that she likes to do when she was getting into it. And we constantly get into this debate because she was always using tools and she was looking for, ways to solve problems, which is all right things to do. I think security is actually much more about tinkering. It's much more around, kludging, taking things apart. It's actually much more about curiosity. I see a lot of young kids that they are very excited about taking things apart, understanding how things work. You see my desk and my shelf over here. I was looking at it because everything is like, pieces of parts of components. We're built that way. I think people who actually, love security are people who actually like to take things apart to understand them, not to do bad things, of course, but to understand them. I think that's the part that we can encourage people on because that generates two things. It produced great security engineers because I think one of the reasons why SOC has become much more of a, I think, driven, race to the bottom kind of area is because we kind of made SOC, we dumbed it down. I think that was a mistake. I think SOC is actually one of the areas that really should be driven by understanding why much more than here's a ticket, down a ticket, here's a ticket, and then a ticket. I understand about scaling the importance of it, but we should encourage that. That's a really important aspect of it. It was not 50% of it, 20%. If it's not 20%, give it 10% of the case where they actually go through and generate insight out of it from people who investigate. I think that's a critical aspect of security that we cannot forget, because I can tell you that the both ethical and the bad hackers too, they look at it as a puzzle. They look at it as a challenge. They look at it as a hobby. They look at it as something that is exciting for them to do. I hate this, and they're driven obviously because of the money. If the other side of things are lack of passion, lack of curiosity, lack of excitement, we would never ever win. We would lose right off the bat. So my recommendation is to drive young folks towards more and more embracing security. I think it's three things. I'll summarize it for you. One is curiosity. Don't stop spoon feeding them with answers. I looked at some of the class, I hate to say, that's out there, and some of them I actually was helping teach. Stop giving them answers. Give them questions. Get them to figure it out. That's what's going to encourage them. I don't care how complex it is. Get them to get in the habit and excitement and passion about figuring things out. That's number one. Number two, defensive thinking, right? So in combat sports, we always say use a peripheral vision. The reason for that is a lot, because there's a reaction time, there's a lot of it. But more importantly, you are much more careful. You are much more well aware. You are deciding on things much more holistically if you have a view. So get your guys, get your students, get your interns to start looking at things, but have a peripheral vision. Be curious. New language comes out, try it out. Have a widespread. There is no such thing as a security expert that's on A. Everybody needs to know widespread. That's why I love security. You go all the way from hardware, all the way to application level, because you need to, in a sense that attackers would always go in whatever direction. So get them into the habit of using the peripheral vision, have enough breadth, as well as one area of depth. We call it YT, right? That's number two. Number three is people get into work on something and they're passionate about it when they see the connection to the meaning. So I was in a conference that I actually was speaking. In fact, this was actually a TED Talk in Vienna I did years ago. I asked the audience, I said, close your eyes. Don't worry, I'm not going to steal your wallet or anything. Just close your eyes. Imagine you open up your mobile application and you look at your balance, and your balance is zero.
Okay.
You start to panic. You start to freak out. You start to think about your lifetime saving. If you're an older guy like me, you realize you're completely screwed. That's the impact that security has. You really could lose somebody's lifetime saving. They could, and it could be a lot more. It could be even more severe than that. But that's the impact of it. Have that connection with the new folks. Show how good security could actually really be meaningful. So those are the three things. Encourage curiosity, get them to understand more breadth, not so much just honing to one area, so they can try multiple things out, and then connect them to the meaning. That's what I would recommend.
It's a very comprehensive answer, Sam. You haven't mentioned one aspect, and let me ask you how it's in the US, the financial aspect. How well the IT security people are paid in the US comparing with the other industries, with the other roles?
I think it's getting better and better. So there is absolutely a premium on security folks for sure, right? And it really depends on a skill set, again, and on your background and expertise. If you have a YT, and YT meaning that you have a breadth of knowledge that cuts across a lot of areas, so you can help assess a lot of areas, but you have a deep area, which is that one leg that you can actually drill down very deep. If that one area could be, on reversing, for example, that demands a huge premium. Reversing is, not a lot of jobs. There are more and more out there, but that deserves a premium because your knowledge level needs to be very high. If you have specific cloud expertise, which is if you know Azure very, very well, especially, and in that space, you have hands-on experience in it, that demands a huge premium on top of it. If you have data security, but not so much just on a traditional, yes, I know, how to do TDEs and stuff like that, but you have a lot more on really understanding how data disseminate and not just at rest, what do you encrypt and so on, but also on the cloud, what happens to it? If you move it to RDS, how do you secure it? Is it tokenizing this or tokenizing that and all that stuff? If you have that understanding, that's a premium. IEM, there's a premium there. So there are areas that provides you premium. So my recommendation to folks is who's looking at the financial aspect of it is certification will help, right? So a number of certification would help so that people would actually at least get you in the door and understand you have a baseline. But then on top of that, make sure that you have a breadth of knowledge across, especially more towards the application side. That's where we see a lot of the move is towards. Infrastructure is still good, but application and cloud, that would be really, really useful. And then make sure you have one more area that you can demand a premium, whether it's, around, maybe you're an expert in SAML and you know that very, very well, and you know the IAM connection identity very, very well, or author, whatever it is, make sure you have that sweet spot in there somewhere that you can obviously demand a premium.
Yeah. And the last question to you, Sam, is if you were looking for your team member at EPAM, what kind of skills you expect from the person to have to be really the person you wish to hire?
So I think I mentioned them already, actually. So I will say, great question, by the way, first of all. But I think I will start from the top, and then I'll go to the one that actually, believe it or not, is actually the most important one. The curiosity. I look for engineers who actually like to figure out why and how, right? So the experience part is important. But I had actually just, an interview with somebody yesterday, and when I asked him a couple of questions, he clearly had never done it before, but he started asking me questions about, okay, so what does that really mean?
Yeah.
And we were talking about distributed file system and about how journaling works in a file system. And he started talking about what he worked on and Gluster and stuff like that. And then I start describing how would you actually keep a journal across multiple machines and how would that work? And we got into a really good conversation. And clearly he was curious. That is what I look for. That's number one.
A critical mind, kind of, right?
It's a critical mind. It's somebody who actually likes to figure out why. It's somebody who actually is interested in engineering. That's what I look for. Having and I'm mapping back to what I encourage people, which is having at least an area that they're specific about. So my biggest demand, as I mentioned before, some cloud native architecture level. So somebody who actually understands modern architecture and what the security control needs to be. How do you attach a security control to elastic environment? Those are things that I look for and skill set on. That's critical. And then, but the last part that's not very common, and it's not language. So last part is usually people don't understand, is we're at a stage right now, security and digital all coming together. Communication skills is actually very important. So most of the time, I realized I was called into an escalation, or I was called in to help in a situation that seems to be unblocked. It's just completely blocked. When I looked at it, it was actually a communication issue. So what I'm looking for is a new breed of security folks that's no longer just sit back, yes, no, no, you're in trouble.
And there are
no,
many people
yes.
like this in this area, right?
Oh, God, crying out loud.
Majority probably.
It used to be like that. It used to be like that. You call them, you know what's going to happen. They're going to say, no. No. That's what you're going to get. You're not going to understand why, because of secure protocol. Part of that is true. Part of that is they don't know why. Come on, let's be honest. But anyway, so it no longer could be that way by itself. There are things that need to stand very firm. I completely agree with you. But you need to be part of the solution. You cannot be just the control anymore. There are folks that need to be controlled, but you need to be part of the solution as well. So I would look for, last but not least, communication skill, or at least that willingness to explore, so that we can actually help solve it.
It's important indeed, because communication is our human interface to the world.
It is.
Would you give any preference to the person who will tell you that, hey, I won at Standoff?
Of course. It shows me three things. It shows me that person is willing to challenge him or herself. That's important to me, right? So I'm an old guy, and I'm always challenging myself because I believe in it, right? So, that's number one. Number two, it satisfied the part about curiosity, because if you don't really are not interested, you would not be doing something like this. This is exciting stuff.
Yeah.
But so it satisfied that part. And a third part, more importantly, is it tells me you're proud, right? So, in a sense that you're willing to actually tell people about that, you're willing to be challenged as well. It's no good if you're not willing to actually stand behind what you say. So yeah, absolutely. I would definitely give a big check mark on it.
And by the way, I would like to remind that the first three places are financially motivated for the standoff participants. So if you win, or if you take the first, second, or third place, you get a financial prize, and very significant prize. So it's really worth to participate, and then it will be some special approval for you to come to Sam's office saying that, I have money paid at Standoff, and you have no excuse to take me to this war.
There you go. I highly encourage it.
Okay.
I highly encourage it. Come to me on it. In fact, I highly encourage it.
Okay, thank you very much, Sam. Sam Rehman, EPAM security, and very interesting interview about the US IT security community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate the time.